Our brains read stories like computers read code. It's unavoidable. It's just what our brains do. And not only is it unavoidable, it's the way that our brains function. Whenever there is an absence of a story, our brain creates a story. And if you are a leader, an entrepreneur, a speaker, there are specific client-facing stories that you're probably not taking advantage of. So today, I'm gonna teach you the 4 core stories that every member of every organization should always have in their back pocket to be able to communicate what you are all about.
But Eric,
You might say,
I'm not a storyteller. I don't even really interact with clients. What does this have to do with me?
well, YouTube viewer, I'll tell you what. Regardless of your role, you are a walking, talking commercial for your organization and your brand. Even if you never have direct interactions with clients, you are still going to be talking to others about your work, and you're talking internally with the members of your team. You don't have to be a professional storyteller in order to tell stories. And I'm not saying that you have to have this perfectly polished performance in order to impact the people you're around. You just need to know what those core 4 stories are and how they relate to you and your audience. And if you're still skeptical, let me tell you something else. Carmine Gallo says it this way: no technique is 100% guaranteed, but telling personal stories comes close. You're telling stories every day. In business presentations, you're telling the story behind your campaign, company, or product. In a job interview, you're telling the story behind your personal brand. In a marketing pitch, you're telling the story about your idea. Yes, we're all storytellers, and we're telling stories in business each and every day. So regardless of whether you want to or not, regardless if you can or not, you are telling stories every day. So let's make those stories really powerful. The first core story is identity stories. Now, there are 2 questions to consider when identifying your identity story. Number 1, what does it mean to be us? And number 2, what is our or my origin story? This is simply answering the question, why are you here? Why does your company exist? What problem are you solving? Now, I know this might seem a little bit obvious depending on your product, but remember that the obvious isn't always so obvious, especially to your clients. Understanding the why behind your company and your mission is really critical. And even if you're not connected to the why behind your company, why are you there? Why are you in the role that you are in? That is a significant story to clarify to yourself as well as to others. Now, here's an example of my identity story. And notice, it's not going to be a very long story. I began my career as a competitive speech and debate coach. I coached middle school, high school, and collegiate individuals in speech and debate competitions. And as these students were growing and developing in their communication confidence, I kept hearing this weird and consistent comment, not from them, but from their parents. The parents of these students would come up to me and be so impressed and say, wow, I can't believe that my child is doing what they're doing. They're so confident, so expressive. I wish I could do what they do. And this comment kept recurring from parents until it finally hit me. Wait a minute. I know who you are. You're a community leader. You're an entrepreneur. You're a lawmaker and a decision maker. Not only can you communicate with confidence, but it's a requirement of your role to do so. And that's why I started shifting from teaching students to teaching professionals, because it is so important for professionals to be able to speak up with power, confidence, and a little fun. So again, not a long story, but just enough to let you know why I do what I do. Second is value stories. When considering value stories, you get to answer 2 key questions. Number 1, what does excellence look like? And number 2, how does your company do the work? Now listen, every company and every organization has a link on their website that describes their values. And that's all good and great and wonderful, but a customer isn't necessarily going to land on that page and study it. The customer wants to know how you are living those values out. In other words, it's not enough to tell people your values, you get to show them your values. So here's my value story. One of my values, especially when coaching clients, is to give them unwavering support. There's one instance where I was working with a client on a major facilitation. Now, we worked for weeks on organizing, structuring, rehearsing, and delivering every component of this facilitation. And the night before her facilitation, the company went to her and essentially changed her entire topic. Not only did they change her entire topic, but they also asked her to facilitate a really tense conversation between their team. So this is creating new content in an emotionally charged situation. She emailed me with concerns about how she was going to adapt what we worked on into what the client was requesting. I immediately jumped on a call, even though it was late, and we walked through the adjustments. Now, this was important to me because, again, I want to make sure that my clients feel that unwavering support from me, and I also want to ensure that my clients have an emotional stability when they are presenting. Again, I'm not just telling you that I support my clients, I'm showing you from a specific example and a story. Third is vision stories. When considering vision stories, again, you get to ask yourself two key questions. Number one, where are we going? Number two, what is the future of our company? Essentially, you're asking the question, what goals are you working on right now? Now, some may be public and some may be private, but here's why this is important. We all want to be part of something that grows and develops. We all want to be part of an improving process. And when there is client loyalty at stake, those clients get to be on your journey with you. So tell them, where are you going? What journey are you taking them on? Here's my vision story. Over the last few years, I personally have investigated and researched quite a bit on ADHD and being an introvert. That's mainly because, well, I am ADHD and an introvert. And as I'm uncovering my ADHD and introvert tendencies, I'm recognizing that a lot of the tendencies around ADHD and being an introvert impede my ability to speak with confidence, power, and fun. There are specific roadblocks that I don't think are being addressed anywhere else. And so one of the things that I'm really working on is how do I deliver effective communication training, inspiring communication training in a way that adapts and reaches those that are ADHD and those like me who are introverts. In other words, those of us who have highly charged emotional reactions, disorganized thoughts, or really don't like, spending time with human beings often, if at all. Okay, that may be a little bit unfair to say about introverts, but it is a natural tendency for introverts to withdraw. And withdrawing doesn't mean that you get to hide. So that's where I'm going. Again, it's not a perfectly polished story. It is just exactly clearly where I am going and what journey I'm going to be taking you on. And finally, my favorite. The fourth story is stories of change and learning. Here's the two questions you get to consider here. What did you try that didn't work? What new values do you have based off of that experience? You're actually watching my stories of change and learning as we speak. As I mentioned to you earlier, I'm a bit of an introvert, even though my profession is being a public speaker. And I have had a lot of hesitations of showing my face, showing my voice, showing myself in front of larger audiences. And that's part of the reason why I created this YouTube channel. It was not just a way to clarify and refine my message, but a way for me to continue to rehearse the skills that I'm teaching others. And you can go ahead and scroll through my YouTube account. You're going to see some videos that are really, really well done and that I'm very proud of. And you're going to see some videos that are less than well done and I'm not so proud of. And you know what? I leave all of them up and published. The reason why I do that is because I want people to see the change that is developing, that the improvement that I am making for my audience, and I'm also modeling what it takes to improve your communication skills, ongoing practice, and feedback. Again, you don't need hours and hours of storytelling training in order to implement these stories in your organization. And here's a bonus. Assign each of your team members these 4 stories and then have a storytelling hour. It's going to give you a good insight as to where the members of your team are, what they perceive as their top values, and how they do the work that they get to do. When you start there and you start to unlock those 4 core stories, and each member of your organization has them in your back pocket, Again, you're going to be able to tell those stories publicly with more power, confidence, creativity, and a lot of fun. Hey, if you like that, make sure that you like that and subscribe to stay up to date on all content related to confidence, communication, and storytelling. Until next time, make sure you come off mute, speak up your story. See you soon.